Guilt is a feeling that normally occurs when committing an action that breaks one's morals, codes, or beliefs. Guilt is the initial feeling that comes directly after violating one's moral standards, but can lead into a more deep-rooted feeling such as remorse. If this feeling cannot be overcome, that is when suffering can ultimately take place and, more importantly, result in a tragic death.
Ambition and political power are used in the quest for authority by the protagonist of the play Macbeth by William Shakespeare. The quest was attempted but not achieved because of guilt, remorse, and suffering. Therefore, the choices made through evil deeds causes the ultimate downfall of the tragic heroes Macbeth and Lady Macbeth.
Macbeth can be related to Paul Bernardo and Carla Homolka, who committed crimes that wanted to be concealed from the public. They were nicknamed the Ken and Barbie killers since they perceived many into thinking they were a normal couple, but really raped and killed innocent girls. As the crimes progressed, the couple finally got caught and were sent to jail. This was where she confessed the bizarre circumstances of their marriage and only got sentenced to 12 years in prison. It was actually believed that Homolka was the evil force behind the killings, since Paul had never killed anyone until she came into the picture. He mentally began to break down after their third murder, which compares to the guilt Lady Macbeth felt after the death of Duncan.
Macbeth's ambition to become king leads to the killing of Duncan and sleep itself. He becomes very frantic after the murder and explains to Lady Macbeth that the guard spoke to him, which demonstrates the first time he feels guilt for his actions. It signifies that Macbeth believes that sleep is a necessity in life and resolves all problems from a day's time. Sleep ends the day and washes away all worries from the minds of everyone, and implies that Macbeth thinks sleep is essential to living a pure life. Sleep is innocent and he murders it, which refers to Duncan's death and the beginning of Macbeth's downfall. Sleep is supposed to be a peaceful and relaxing time, but it is clearly shown that it is no longer a pleasant thing. Since Macbeth is a human being, it is appropriate that he feels guilt for his actions. However, Lady Macbeth does not, and she dismisses his feelings altogether. Macbeth reaches a point where he realizes that his evil act cannot be reversed and he has to live with this horrid secret. Shakespeare uses a metaphor to compare the raveled sleeve of care, which is a piece of thread of yarn, to the kind of frustration that is faced when problems cannot be resolved. Macbeth believes that when he has issues that aggravate him, sleep is the one thing that can solve them. However, since he murders sleep, his problems will never be resolved, which develops into the feeling of guilt. It also foreshadows that Macbeth will never learn from his actions, since he will never have a chance to sleep on it, and continue to make more mistakes as he spirals into the depths of hell.
Not only does Macbeth feel guilt, Lady Macbeth exhibits such feelings as the play evolves. Lady Macbeth feels guilt for the first time and expresses it to a servant. She says that she would rather die than face the anxiety and guilt that comes along with Duncan's death, and she got what she wanted but is still not happy. In the first few acts, Lady Macbeth possesses herself as an evil woman who fears that her husband does not have the ambition to kill Duncan. She is the force behind Macbeth's actions and does not feel guilt for what they have done. On the other hand, Macbeth does, and she tries to reassure him that killing Duncan is the right thing to do. Although Lady Macbeth's feelings about Duncan's death is not shown immediately, she later feels guilt. Lady Macbeth does not express her guilty conscience to Macbeth because she feels that she is the one who has the power in the relationship. Lady Macbeth is the character who strives for this political power and creates Macbeth to act as her puppet in order to achieve dominance over him and others in Scotland. She did not think about the consequences that would stem from Duncan's murder because her ambition overthrows her morals in the situation. William Shakespeare uses rhyming couplets and iambic pentameter so that the audience takes notice to what Lady Macbeth is saying. Since this is the first time she feels guilt,
Remorse derives from guilt. It is a feeling that Macbeth acquires throughout the play after killing Duncan. After Duncan's death, Macbeth immediately feels remorse, unlike Lady Macbeth. He feels as if nothing, not even the pure water from the sea created by Neptune, can wash the blood left on his hands. Although Lady Macbeth feels no remorse until later on in the play, Macbeth has reached the point where his feelings are at their highest mark, which later leads to his insanity. Having this extreme event occur makes it just the beginning of Macbeth's downfall. As well as when he hears the knocking at the doors, he gets extremely frightened, thinking that someone will come in and realize what he has done. The source of imagery present in Macbeth's soliloquy is how he describes the green waters to be stained scarlet from the blood on his hands. Green represents the purity in life and all the good people in life, where the red represents the remorse that he continues to feel after committing the murder. Macbeth is so corrupted that he imagines he will turn the whole scene red with the smallest touch of his bloody hands. To prevent himself from seeing what he has done, Macbeth wishes to remove his eyes. This symbolizes the hatred he has for himself, and he now wishes to not feel the regret that consumes him. Overall, Macbeth's drive for power has conclusively led him to feel an extreme amount of remorse, leading to his downfall as a man. Lady Macbeth begins to sleepwalk unknowingly due to the fact that she so desperately wants to conceal the guilt she feels.
Lady Macbeth reveals what should not have been said to the doctor and gentlewoman, to which they decide to not dare speak of it again. She describes how there is a spot that cannot be removed from her hands, which symbolizes the guilt she feels from Duncan's murder that cannot be erased from her mind. This relates to when Macbeth tells her that all the water in the ocean cannot wash away the blood that stains his hands because she ignored him at the time, but now suffers the same agony. The ambition she felt before Duncan died consumed her thoughts and made her think that no guilt could be laid upon them, if their plan was executed perfectly. However, Lady Macbeth was mistaken since she now feels psychological pain. She constantly rubs her hands to try to remove the blood that can never be washed away, which leads to her going mad. She says that Duncan had so much blood in him, which represents the blood that also cannot be eliminated from their hands. Lady Macbeth sleepwalks in the dark with a candle to create an image of her descending into hell. The small light is symbolic because it shows her how her soul is being dominated by the darkness, overpowering the last bit of light, which is associated to heaven. Lady Macbeth's sleepwalking proves how Macbeth told her that he will sleep no more because she acquires his sense of guilt and no longer sleeps peacefully without suffering. Macbeth also feels suffering. It shows when he sees the ghost of his deceased friend Banquo after he sent some men to kill him.
At this point, Macbeth has reached insanity. He continues to see the ghost of Banquo when no one else does. This shows just how insane he has become and how he is suffering, for he is seeing someone who is dead and was killed in a completely different location than where Macbeth stands. The animals he talks about shows how much he is suffering with Banquo's death. Macbeth wishes for the ghost to transform into any other more terrifying animal than to be the ghost itself. He thinks he is the strongest man, and having the apparition be in the form of anything other than Banquo will not make him tremble with fear. This represents the torture Macbeth obtains due to how he causes a huge scene in the middle of their dinner with other men, as he is the only one capable of seeing Banquo. Macbeth cannot concentrate on the dinner and conversations between everyone, considering he is petrified of the apparition of his friend staying right in front of him. A metaphor during this moment is where Macbeth says he is a girl because he is scared of Banquo. With the amount of tragedies this man has been a part of, Macbeth suffers excessively and has no way of coping. His main goal of killing Banquo to help him get higher power is turned against him and causes him to go insane and eventually leads to his death.
Therefore, when thriving for power and authority through politics and ambition in Macbeth by William Shakespeare, the goal cannot be obtained when held back by the emotions of guilt, remorse, and suffering. It may be tried but will not be successful due to how the overpower of emotions and fright causes the downfalls and deaths of both Lady Macbeth and Macbeth.
Both these characters feel tremendous amounts of pain and regret towards the actions of killing they engaged in, which makes them very similar to Paul Bernardo and Carla Homolka. This married couple committed murders on young, innocent girls without any feeling of guilt or remorse and made many people think they were a normal couple, just like Lady Macbeth and Macbeth. Although the couple in the play do suffer, feel guilty, and regret what they have done, these couples both committed evil deeds to try and get or seem more powerful than others in the end. It did not work out to their advantage due to how they were either killed or put in jail. In all, emotions that are a result of someone's actions have a great impact on how situations turn out and may not always be the way it was planned.